The muscles that power a racing pigeon's flight have been extensively studied by scientists, yet little of this research seems to reach the average pigeon fancier. As a result, many misconceptions persist regarding proper nutrition and care for these critical muscles. This article provides an overview of key scientific findings about racing pigeons' flight muscles, their fuel requirements, and what happens within them during a race. Pigeons have two main sets of flight muscles, the major pectorals and the minor pectorals. The major pectorals are the large, powerful muscles on either side of the breastbone, comprising about 20% of the bird's body weight. These muscles drive the downward wing stroke that propels the bird forward. The minor pectorals are smaller muscles lying underneath, closer to the breastbone. Making up just 3.6% of body weight, they power the upward wing stroke. Researchers have studied these muscles extensively, particularly in racing pigeons. Most of this research occurred at the University of Guelph in Canada by Dr. John George and colleagues. They analyzed the anatomy of pigeons' flight muscles at multiple levels. Gross anatomy, the observable structure, location, and attachments of the intact muscles. Microscopic anatomy, the appearance of the muscle fibers and surrounding tissues under a microscope. Submicroscopic anatomy, the ultrastructure of the muscle cells and organelles as seen under an electron microscope. These analyses shed light on how the muscles function, their fuel sources during flight, and the physiological processes occurring within them during races. Fuel for flight. A key finding is that pigeons' flight muscles require carbohydrates, primarily grains like wheat, oats, and corn, as their main fuel source. Contrary to traditional beliefs, protein sources like peas and beans do not provide adequate energy for racing. The carbohydrates from grains get broken down into glucose and stored as glycogen, the primary fuel for sustained muscle exertion. What happens during flight? Upon release from the race point, the pigeon flies using rapid wing beats while circling upward. The flight muscles immediately start consuming glycogen and oxygen to generate energy for contraction. As glycogen depletes, muscles shift to burning fat. The byproducts of fat metabolism accumulate in the muscles, contributing to fatigue. Prolonged exertion creates an oxygen debt. Muscles can't get enough oxygen to meet energy demands aerobically. Lactate and other metabolites accumulate, acidifying the muscles and disrupting cellular function. Muscle fibers rupture and plasma leaks into surrounding tissues. Only upon returning to the loft and resting can muscles restore homeostasis. With sufficient glycogen stores and conditioning, pigeons can withstand high levels of exertion. But as races stretch past 400 to 500 miles, even top pigeons deplete reserves. Their flight efficiency declines and muscles fatigue. Providing adequate carbohydrate nutrition allows pigeons to complete longer, more challenging races in peak form. In summary, scientific research has revealed much about racing pigeons' flight muscles. Understanding their anatomy, function, and nutritional needs allows fanciers to optimize training and conditioning for success in the sport. Feeding carbohydrate-rich grains emerges as a key principle. They fuel the sustained exertion those powerful muscles demand during long races. Another important fact to realize is that, in birds, there are two basic types of muscle, based on the color and function of these muscles. The first of these is white muscle, such as that seen best in the pale breast muscles of the domestic chicken. The second is red muscle, as seen most prominently in the dark breast muscles of birds such as pigeons, ducks and geese, among other flying birds, for example. Although the muscles of birds contain mixtures of red and white muscle, it is obvious from the examples cited, that the breast muscles of domestic chickens contain a preponderance of white muscle, whereas those of racing pigeons have a preponderance of red muscle. We will try to explain the difference as follows. If we take a small piece of the major pectoral muscle, which lies immediately under the skin of the breast, cut it longitudinally, with the grain, process it to produce a thin section stained with special dyes, and examine it microscopically, we see that it is composed of many long, cigar-shaped units that are actually specialized body cells called fibers. If we cut the same piece of muscle in cross-section and look end-on at the cigar-shaped units, we see that they are more or less round, oval or even somewhat angular, and that they occur in bundles. As an example, we would have roughly the same situation if we took a number of pencils to form a bundle, wrapped each bundle with an elastic band and then stacked the bundles on top of one another, as well as end-to-end. Obviously, hundreds of thousands of bundles, both stacked and laid end-to-end, make up the entire muscle we can feel with our fingers. Continuing our end-on view of the muscle fibers, we note firstly that the vast majority of individual fibers in a bundle have a narrow diameter. Based on this finding and several other important and related characteristics which we will discuss more fully, these narrow diameter fibers have been designated as red fibers and in fact make up about 94% of the fibers in the breast muscles. Whereas a majority of fibers are of small diameter, There are many fewer fibers in a bundle that have a much larger diameter and are called whit fibers. These fibers make up only about 6% of the fibers in the breast muscles. We also note that, for the most part, these white fibers are located on the edge of each bundle. Once again, if we use the analogy of pencils, but had mixed thick and thin pencils in a bundle, we would see that, in general, most of the thick pencils representing white fibers would be near or actually touching the rubber band, whereas, most of the slim pencils representing red fibers would be located more deeply inside the bundle. Thus, the predominance of red fibers in the breast muscles of the racing pigeon gives that muscle a red appearance on gross inspection. This red color is related to the presence of myoglobin, a pigmented, oxygen-carrying compound peculiar to red muscle in many species of birds and animals. By contrast, the predominance of white fibers in the breast muscle of the domestic chicken imparts a very pale and characteristic appearance to that muscle, because white muscle has very little myoglobin. These basic features serve to outline one of the major differences between a bird such as the racing pigeon, or any migratory species which is required to fly for many hours at a stretch, and a sedentary, non-flying bird such as the chicken. There are other differences and we will explore them in more depth as we proceed. In addition to differences in the diameter of these two types of fibers, what other distinguishing and significant features are there? Well, major investigations have shown that, in addition to having a narrow diameter, individual red fibers have an extensive network of blood vessels running and interconnecting over their surfaces. Red fibers also have a high capacity to take up oxygen, because of the presence of myoglobin, for the metabolism, or burning, of fuel to produce the energy necessary for flight. Of very great importance of the racing pigeon is the fact that these red muscle fibers function, or as we say, they twitch, slowly. Because these fibers twitch slowly during flight, they also tire out very slowly. It becomes obvious then that red fibers are those that can handle the sustained effort of rapid flight over many miles, whether the distance is a short training toss, a middle distance race or a major long distance event. In some special situations such as launching into the air, to be discussed later, evidence suggests that the red fibers are also capable of very rapid activity. However, their most important single function seems to be associated with the prolonged, sustained muscular effort of distance flying. There are many reasons to buy my racing pigeon method. Here are some of the best reasons. You will get excellent results. It's a very simple system to use. It's affordable. I have had over 400 first prize winners. It's adaptable to any situation. You can use it with any racing method, natural, widowhood, young birds. It's a very effective method. There is no need to spend a lot of money on fancy pigeon products. It's a reliable system and it is foolproof to use. Professional athletes, race horses, take the same products. There is science behind this, not just hearsay. It is all to do with red blood cells and oxygen in the blood. Without that, a pigeon will not race well, or an athlete will not win a race, if he has low oxygen in his blood. The above is fact and is 100% science. There are a few things you can do to improve your chances of winning at racing pigeons. One of the most important things is to learn as much as you can about the sport. You'll need to know the different types of pigeons, how to train them, and how to race them. Another key factor is practice. You'll need to be able to fly your pigeons competently in order to win races. And, of course, you'll need to have the funds to invest in racing pigeons and other racing equipment. There are many reasons to buy my racing pigeon method. Here are some of the best reasons. You will get excellent results. It's a very simple system to use. It's affordable. I have had over 400 first prize winners. It's adaptable to any situation. You can use it with any racing method, natural, widowhood, young birds. It's a very effective method. There is no need to spend a lot of money on fancy pigeon products. It's a reliable system and it is foolproof to use. Professional athletes, race horses, take the same products. There is science behind this, not just hearsay. It is all to do with red blood cells and oxygen in the blood. Without that, a pigeon will not race well, or an athlete will not win a race, if he has low oxygen in his blood. The above is fact and is 100% science. There are a few things you can do to improve your chances of winning at racing pigeons. One of the most important things is to learn as much as you can about the sport. You'll need to know the different types of pigeons, how to train them, and how to race them. Another key factor is practice. You'll need to be able to fly your pigeons competently in order to win races. And, of course, you'll need to have the funds to invest in racing pigeons and other racing equipment. free racing pigeon tips and lots of info, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, look at the links and email below.